Hello, my name is Dante Renee, and welcome to the 10 Room Bizarro YouTube page where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more. Tonight's film is 1978's Teen Lust, also known as The Girl Next Door. Those are two different cuts. Teen Lust looks to be the actual theatrical version, and The Girl Next Door is the director's cut. It also went by another name, I believe, Police Girls Academy, and a few other names as well, if you look it up. This is a very rare film, and we're going to look into it right now. This is the cover art. This was released by Code Red DVD, and you can see some of the screenshots in the back here. So Code Red has put this out. Of course, this is a limited edition. It goes in and out of print very, very quickly. Great artwork on the cover here. Almost reminds me of some Mad Magazine or Wendy Carlos or Walter Carlos soundtrack album covers. The tagline on the front says, "The myth becomes a reality. Your dream about her, you talk about her. You dream about her, you talk about her. Now she's a movie." Teen Lust, otherwise known as The Girl Next Door, two different cuts. We're looking at Teen Lust tonight, though. Teen Lust is actually the theatrical version. It's also a longer cut. It has more in it than the director's cut that was put on this DVD also here. As you can see from the back, this stars Kirsten Baker. You can see her right there. You'd know her from Friday the 13th Part 2. Also from the film Gas Pump Girls, which I reviewed on this YouTube page also. And Kirsten Baker did a handful of films, and she did them around the same time once again, even if in comparison to somebody like Sandra Peabody also, which I had her in a movie on this page also, Teenage Hitchhikers. So let's look at Teen Lust. Let's get into this film, because I don't think you're aware of what this film does. You know, Teen Lust is a film about a neighborhood that almost acts as a world. During the summer, a bunch of teenage friends, and this one girl, and her struggles with relationships, her own family, her friends, her cheating boyfriend, the cop who loves her, and her next door neighbor. This is Teen Lust. That's kind of the plot. But the movie takes that simple storyline, that interestingly dramatic storyline, and makes it crazy. This is a film that acts as a teen sex comedy. But believe me, people, you've never seen a teen sex comedy like this movie ever before. First off, did you know that this film was directed by James Hong? This was directed by the lead villain in Big Trouble in Little China. He also played the main, maitre d' in the Seinfeld episode at the Chinese restaurant. This is James Hong. James Hong directed Teen Lust. This is crazy. So let's get ready. First and foremost, this film could never be made today at all. Why? Well, number one, it's not marketable, okay, because it mixes genres and then makes its own genre. Number two, it's deeply politically incorrect for our 2016 times. Deeply. I'm going to read off a little list here of some of the things that the film uses humor with. These are some areas that this film, Teen Lust, uses humor with. Ready? Mental retardation, weight, like fat people, fat girls, incest, alcoholism, rape, pedophilia, adultery, racism, and homosexuality. These are some of the areas that this film has humor with. We could also add in prostitution and perversion. These are some of the areas that this film has some fun with, albeit some dark fun, but definitely some fun here, okay? This is a deeply politically incorrect film, make no qualms about it, and it means it's extremely entertaining for our 2016 times because we don't see anything like this anymore. Let's start off with the film, and let's start off with what I like to start off with, the music. This is a very, very odd situation with the music in this film because a lot of the film is very empty. meaning there's no music in it at all. It almost feels like somebody forgot to put the score in or the soundtrack in. And it adds this really unique feel to this film because you're left with the dialogue, you're left with the characters, you're left with the sound of birds in the summer, you're left with cars going by. And sometimes you're left with just silence, as characters aren't talking or doing something. So there's very, very little music in this film, and when it does happen, it's like in the background. It's like really, really in the background, like you don't even notice it. There are some funky electronic, yes, funky 70s rock and some electronic pieces kind of strewn throughout the film with a couple dramatic cues, and just some kind of atmospheric sounds that would fit like a teen sex comedy or like a weird exploitation film. But that's it. There is not much music in this film at all. Um, this this is a film where the story and the characters is the style of the film. Okay, I'm going to unpack this a little bit here. The story and the characters are the style. Typically you talk about the cinematography and stuff like that. The story and the characters is the style of this film. There is a level of absurdist freedom that is very evident in this film. Yes, the theater of the absurd. Absurdist freedom. Very evident in this film. It's almost as if David Lynch, and I made some notes here. It's almost like David Lynch and John Waters made a teen sex comedy. Okay? David Lynch and John Waters. Okay? But there'd be more than that as well. Um, Everything is off kilter. I mean, you never know what is going to happen next. You never know what action is going to happen next. You never know what word, what sentence a character is going to spew forth from their mouth next. Um, this is when I say this teen sex comedy deals with a group of friends in a neighborhood. I mean, I'm telling you, this is the weirdest world, the weirdest. Just this almost exists in it could almost be a sci-fi film because it exists in another galaxy, another suburban galaxy of insanity and absurdity and just plain out weirdness. Um, there's the characters are all surreal. They're all bizarre. The situations are all surreal. They're all bizarre. They're I've never seen such creative insanity in a teen sex comedy before. You know, Kirsten Baker plays a kind of the straight person in this film. Somebody who's really trying to stay with it, but at the same time, she is pulled and pushed from this bizarre world of family and friends. A couple things that exist in this film, hardcore and definitely in the 70s, is just the when I said hardcore, I don't mean hardcore sex. I mean just it exists a lot. You know what I mean? Is the element of free love, the element of for some people, not minding cheating, that cheating actually enhances the relationship. But with our lead character, Kirsten Baker, that is not the case. I mean, but she will continually go back to people who abuse her trust. And it's even evident within her parents themselves. Her dad seems to want to constantly kiss her on the lips. And her mom is a raging alcoholic, and the way that it plays out and the way that it's done is very comedic in a very, very black way. Dark, dark humor. I gotta say that this is definitely the darkest humored teen sex comedy I've ever seen. Now, this teen sex comedy, um, it also mixes in, of course, exploitation and sexploitation, of course, but its core is really absurdity and the bizarre. There are some things that characters are going to say out of their mouths that are going to floor you. There's very bizarre editing in this film. There's very bizarre, just the way things play out. A lot of teen sex comedies have this kind of plotless feel, where it's just like They're just on the beach for the whole movie. That's the plot, you know. And in this particular film, you have a lot of different elements of the plot that involve, you know, parents and friends and relationships and marriage, um, and parties. Um, but it really takes the it takes that plotless type of energy or vibe and injects a healthy amount of weird so that you are just constantly on your toes. There's even some blaxploitation in here. Now, in terms of the film, in terms of the sexuality of the film, you're going to get topless nudity. You're going to get some butts. Um, you're going to get cross-dressing in here also, very entertaining cross-dressing. You're going to get implied sex scenes where you do see, you know, nudity and skin. Um, and you're going to have definitely some implied sex, and even in terms of humping and stuff like that. But there's not that much nudity in this film. This is not a film of nudity, really. But the film is pretty erotic at times, especially with Kirsten Baker and her one blonde-haired friend. And the film is, you know, you have this like weird elements of fetishes. Like there's another girl named Dee Dee who definitely you're going to see her butt a lot. You're going to see lots of butts and like really pushed into the screen, especially Dee Dee's butt. Um, and there's you know, there's very bizarre elements. There's kind of like group sex. There's, you know, there's just that 70s. I look at this film and I think this is the real Dazed and Confused, because you know they're not acting 70s. They're not in 70s clothes. They're not hanging out at their parents' house in the 70s. I mean, this is the real deal. Except if Dazed and Confused was made by David Lynch and John Waters, well then, you know, then we would have this film, you know, right here, the real deal. Um, I love the energy of this film. I love the vibe of this film. I love how weird this film is. I love how sexy this film is. I love how interesting this film is. And it really almost plays out, like I said, like absurdist theater, where like I'm not worried about like weird cuts or anything. It goes from one thing to the next thing to the next thing to the next thing, and it just keeps playing out, and you don't know what in the world's going on, and how outrageous things are getting. From, you know, this, I mean, things will sucker punch you, like this mother who hits her daughter in the face, or this guy who spits on cakes, or I mean it's freaking crazy. There's a marriage in here. I mean, there's rapes in here. There's little kids that sell drugs. There's little kids that try to rape adult women. I mean, this is some crazy stuff strewn throughout this film. And if you have a very, very dark, a very, very bitter, dark sense of humor, then Teen Lust is for you. And if you love teen sex comedies and you want to inject some surreal in them, this is for you. If you want to be shocked at a teen sex comedy, if you want to be floored by a teen sex comedy, this movie is for you. This is Teen Lust. Holy crap, how bizarre is this movie? Thank you, James Hong. This is Teen Lust, put out by Code Red DVD, 1978, also noted as 1979. Wow. And you can actually see pieces of the actual film in here. You can see a flasher there. You can see this cop, bag gentleman, this woman. And, you know, there's also a girls' police academy in this film as well. And a Vietnam vet that likes to try to kill his daughter's boyfriends. But I try to. I'm going to leave you with this line of dialogue here, or a piece of dialogue, which is basically a dad brings his daughter's boyfriend into another room and asks him, "Hey, you getting a lot of girls? Yeah? You balling them?" Something to that effect. Is that weird? Yeah, that's weird. And it's played out as normal. Thank you so much for watching the 10 Room Bizarro page, where I talk about films that I believe need to be talked about more. Please feel free to check out all my other reviews and my own personal films at youtube.com/poopydiarrhea. Thank you, and Teen Lust.